We've been having trouble with Spectrum as far as their internet. I know at one time this fall, and actually farther back than that, I was getting 240 to 250 megabits per second, and today I'm getting 40, sometimes 45. And I just had one of the owners email me and say that he called Spectrum, told them that we were supposed to be getting 200, and the guy told him, no, we're only supposed to be getting 100. Well, even 100 would be better than what I'm getting right now. So I'm not sure what they've done, but they seem to have throttled back our internet speeds for whatever reason. So I think it's something we definitely need to talk to them about. And I believe we have a meeting set up with Spectrum in the near future to talk about the possibility of renewing our contract with them. So we have met. I think this is part of the next item on the agenda, if I'm think right. Well, it's one down from the one of the board and committees thing, but the board has met with two fiber optics companies, and they both did presentations. If you'd like to see those presentations, they are on our website, our YouTube area where we have videos. Both one is labeled a workshop, and the other one is probably labeled a workshop too. But in both cases, I think I mentioned in there, and it says I'm unstable again.
Yeah.
That the presentations were, I suppose about an hour and a half. Sounded about right?
I was in the first one, and it was more like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. And
Same with the second.
second one was an hour.
I missed the second one because I couldn't get a connection where I was.
So they were both companies that I think that the association will take a look at very seriously, as well as talking to Spectrum. So that's where we're at. Those speeds that they were talking about, I think one was 200, one was 300, I think.
I thought, yeah, either 200 and 300 or 300 and 500.
Yeah.
Well, the possibility was that if you wanted to get 500, you pay a little more money. Yeah. Go ahead, Lynn.
Do you have more to say on this before I ask a question?
No.
Okay. One, I'm wondering how it's been determined what people want. You know, this is a different era than 5 years ago.
Right.
And what is the assumption? Are we looking for a cable package? Are we just looking for a broadband service, and it's a free for all? Everybody decides who to sign up with. What are the premises of these discussions?
Well, I guess I'd have to say the board wanted to hear from other providers, and particularly maybe fiber optic providers. Both of the providers that they've heard from would provide cable TV services as well as internet services. So it's not. Yes, both of them would. One of them, I think the phone was included in the package. and one it was an extra charge. So
Lynn, the premise for these discussions is that the Spectrum contract runs out next year.
I understand that, but I'm wondering what you're asking these companies to offer and how you're packaging those services, how you're thinking about packaging.
Presentations were for a full capabilities presentation, which is what we got. Whether or not the association will secure a full package of services is another story, but I know that what these companies are going to be submitting to the association are proposals that include a full package of everything that they offer, but tailored to the input that they received from the board members from each presentation, during each presentation. And that's my understanding of the proposals that will be evaluated by the board.
Okay, so it has yet to be determined what the components of these packages,
Correct.
what will be requested ultimately. Okay.
Against against the backdrop of the observation that this community, like many other communities, has a very high percentage of population who are in varying degrees of technology challenged, and including a very low participation rate using Zoom to attend board meetings, from what I can see. And part of what these fiber companies were presenting was what their onboarding process is, which goes right down to a fairly detailed orientation on a owner by owner, resident by resident, unit by unit. They said an installation and an orientation takes anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 hours per unit after all of the construction and wires are run, so that they can instruct and educate and bring along folks, again, unit by unit, on how to use this new equipment.
Well,
So we'll see.
I'll say about that last component, the educational unit by unit component. Well, you know what I'm thinking.
No, I actually don't, but the association has a responsibility to bring these options to the ownership, and then at some point the association's responsibility ends and the owner's responsibility picks up for taking the ball the rest of the way as it relates to using the new services.
Okay. Then I have thank you, Andrew. I have two additional quick questions. Why aren't we Zooming these discussions live? So that the people in the community who are interested can, observe as they would other board activities.
They were.
they were Zoomed. Both meetings were Zoomed.
And where was the announcement that they were available?
The first one was a normal workshop, and so it was listed on the announcements, and it was listed on the bulletin boards. The second one probably didn't have as much notice.
It was on the bulletin boards.
Yeah.
I don't think it got on the website.
Yeah, I don't remember putting
was
it on
on
the
the bulletin
website. Yeah.
Was the fact of the consideration of a cable replacement for the cable contract, was that put on the agenda of the board workshop? I'm only asking this because I know people who are very concerned about the choices that are made, the quality of the provider, of the service, and of understanding that there's a huge variety of needs that people have, and that I just feel like we're not getting the kind of notification and opportunity to observe the process.
Well, I think that Roger can certainly take your concerns and present them to the board.
Yeah, the first one, which was done at a scheduled workshop using the agenda for the scheduled board meeting, did have the topic listed on the agenda. The second meeting that was not a scheduled one, but a separate one that was put out there and noticed on the bulletin board stated exactly what it was for, and it was to meet with a fiber optic company about that project. So yes, they were both advertised either in the board agenda or in the special meeting notice.
Maybe to your point, Lynn, the office could put out an email to the entire association with links to both presentations to say, these were recently, we're kicking off our cable and fiber contract renewal evaluation process, and these are the two presentations made so far. If you'd like to review them, go here.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Can do that.
And I also would like to suggest that the pursuit of this subject be well publicized by the website, at least. I mean, I don't get much out of the bulletin boards. I only go to the mailbox once a week because the post office tells me the garbage that's in my mailbox in advance. So I'm not convinced that's a good means of communication. But anyway, I think I'd like to see a better job done.
Okay, I'll get those out and
The topic will remain on the board agenda going forward.
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
The board as a whole is the ad hoc committee for this project.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to prolong this discussion, but if the agenda item could be made explicit so that everybody's clear what it is. I don't know what it said, Roger, so
Okay,
you said it was on the agenda, but I don't.
I'll look at the wording and
Okay.
about making it more obvious.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. I do know this, that one of the things that you have to look at very carefully with any of these providers is they will tell you that their service is perfect or great. And I'm sure Spectrum says theirs is great too, but we all know that those things are not always the case. And so there has been some exploration, I know, by at least one board member into some of the service issues with one of these companies. To go back to the about menu, is there anything else that we should be talking about there? Right as we were losing the connection, Lynn, we were talking about the was it renaming the general FAQs? Is that correct? What we want to do?
Oh, yeah. Right. Yes, I don't have a good idea given the number of characters.
Yeah, we are limited to some extent.
Yeah. Anybody?
Could we just say general information?
We could, but Jane, you're
Yeah, you're
did you have
muted, Jane.
You're mute. You're muted.
Sorry, life in WWS.
But what's WWS? That's the problem. I mean, that's a good suggestion, yeah.
I think people can pick up on that.
Maybe not with
How
the.
just our community.
I hate acronyms
Yeah.
because they can mean more than one thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
What did Roger say?
Roger said that he doesn't like acronyms.
Oh.
Um, well, let's give that some thought. I mean, it doesn't have
Okay.
to be changed immediately, but certainly it makes sense. They are good FAQs. They are good questions that Lynn has provided answers to, and I do think we should have them there. And let's just figure out something to call them that makes sense, so that they don't get confused with the ones that the association has to put up. Yes. Go ahead, Jane.
Community FAQ?
Yep, I like it. Because it's inside, they're already inside our website, right? By the time they get to this. So they know they're in the Wildwood Springs
Right.
How about
Association.
our community?
Sure.
That's just as boring, right?
Well, lacking anything more inspired.
Right.
Let me put that up, and we can always change it.
Can we hire a consultant, Chris? We obviously need help here.
Um, let's move on. We have Andrew sent out a nice evaluation of the board and committees menu. He and I haven't really had a chance to sit down and talk all about them, but if you take a look at his suggestion, I believe he sent it to everybody, and you want to add or subtract anything to those, please feel free to do so. One of the things that I believe at the end, Andrew, I just wanted to mention that you mentioned that the committees have a charter or should have a charter.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, and actually in the operations manual that is being reviewed for the dozenth time or
99th?
99th time, there is in there for each committee a charter area. And so we could, I think what I did was I used to have those in the old website. And when I went to the new website, it seemed like there was a lot of boilerplate in them. And I just sort of shortened them to a much briefer. But there's no reason that we can't, go back to the old version, which should be able to take out of the operations manual and paste in.
So you're saying that in the operations manual, these are already written up for each committee.
Each committee, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it probably should be on the committee page as well.
Yeah.
The item below the internet contract is one of the things briefly about the cable internet contract is that it is true, I think, that cable TV options probably aren't going to exist by the end of the 10-year contracts. People will be doing whatever they want to do with the different types of content that they are either purchasing or finding somewhere. And so and the cable TV business is probably in a decline. And I think all the companies know that. And so it is probably much more important for our contract to have very reliable internet service.
I can tell you from the second presentation, I was in the room doing the Zoom recording, and I detected a lot of interest and focus on the whole process to bring the fiber in from 34th Street and the construction and the burying of the fiber process and the notion of getting rid of all of the above ground cable pedestals and the commentary around around seeing currently the orange cables strewn around this property. They're quite visible in many different locations. And all of that goes away with a fresh install of fiber. And there was quite a bit of discussion on that process. And this is why commitment has to be made within, sometime this year, because it's about a year and a half process to execute the build out. But I did detect a lot of enthusiasm, spoken and unspoken, for a switch over to fiber. I'm just sharing that with you because I'll fall off a chair if we end up renewing the Spectrum contract. I'll just say that.
Well, the one option is that Spectrum may offer us fiber.
They may.
And so,
And I do not know about that, and they may very well, and they may undercut their price to keep us.
yeah. So it's certainly one of the features that I liked about the fiber installation was that you would have some sort of a box entering your unit, and there would be no cables going to TVs and things like that. That would be a Wi-Fi unit that would send a signal to your TVs. You could put your TVs wherever you wanted them. They didn't have to be near a cable. They also, both services that made presentations, offered DVR services as part of the package. So,
Oh, and the second one had a remote control that is also voice
right,
command
voice activated.
capable,
Yeah.
which is pretty nifty.
So they were impressive. And I will get an email out to everybody that has a link to those videos. The next item, actually, I went to look at the office email account, and I'd already created it. I don't remember when, probably only a couple months ago, but I do have the office email account has been created, and it is something that we will certainly incorporate in a lot of future documents.
Is it office at wildewoodsprings.com?
Yeah. Yep. We're limited to 5 email accounts, so that is our third one. And at one time we had one for Jeff, but I don't think we have that. I think that was been abandoned. Our computer class is scheduled. We have a computer class scheduled for next Thursday, February 1st at 2:00 in the afternoon. I talked to Jane about it briefly. We have, I think, 7 or 8 people signed up. So we have a nice group, and we have people that have various devices, and we have people with, I think they'll have various questions. And so we want to keep that class pretty basic, but we want to try to address as many of the people's issues as possible. And it will really help to have Jane and Andrew there to help with that, because there's almost always a need for some hands-on. And I will try to present things with our TV here, but it will be, it will be basic. We'll talk about Windows and Apple operating system and web browsers and the various different web browsers, the different search engines. But the basic things that a person who's pretty uninformed about computers is what are they going to use it for? Well, they're going to use it for 2 things. They're going to use it for email. They're going to use it for the internet. And that's about it. I mean, it's what my wife does. She may come to the class, she said. she may sit in. So those are the things we're concentrate on.
But you're gonna jump around the Wildwood Springs website a little bit?
Not much.
Not
We're
much.
going to kind of save that for a second
I
class.
see, okay, yeah,
We're going to try to keep that
understood.
as a way for people to get in and use our website.
Yeah.
And do that at a second class that we'll hold probably later in February.
Yeah, that's the session that I had with you when I first got there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's about it. Are there any other items that you'd like to bring up? If not, then our next meeting would be the end of February. It would be the 23rd, which is last Friday. And I didn't even realize it till I started looking at the calendar, but this is a leap year. So we've got February 29th, which comes on the Thursday before the end of the month. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you all very much. Jane, I hope your whoever's coming to visit you gets there soon.
He's just arrived.
Great. It worked out perfect. All right.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.